The tear was small, almost invisible, but it landed like thunder in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, the kind of quiet moment that later divides a life into before and after. Sunlight poured through the glass walls of the executive floor, traffic murmured far below, and in that bright calm a powerful woman stood suddenly fragile, whispering that her skirt was torn and asking for dignity, not rescue. In that instant, everything about pride, trust, and kindness was tested at once, and the answer would change both of them forever. If you believe that small acts of respect can still reshape broken days, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Bright Acts for stories about kindness and second chances. Arif Khanna had not planned to be on the 42nd floor that day. He was a facilities consultant, the kind who fixed problems quietly and disappeared before anyone noticed. He preferred daylight hours because the city felt honest then, less disguised by neon and exhaustion. The call had been routine, something about a jammed emergency panel in the executive washroom. He arrived with his toolkit, nodding to assistants who barely registered him, and waited near a glass corridor flooded with midday sun. The air smelled of coffee and polished wood, the smell of success. It was a place where mistakes were expensive and emotions were hidden behind schedules. Inside that world moved Meher Ilyas, the CEO whose name was printed on awards and business pages, a woman known for decisiveness and sharp clarity. She had built her company from a rented desk to a global presence, all while carrying expectations heavier than any briefcase. That afternoon, she had rushed from one meeting to another, balancing a dozen pressures, when a sharp sound followed by a cold draft told her something was wrong. The hem of her tailored skirt had caught on a broken latch, leaving a tear that climbed just high enough to threaten humiliation. It was broad daylight, her office door was glass, and people passed constantly. Power did not protect her from this. Titles did not mend fabric. When she realized that the only other person nearby was a stranger with a toolbox, panic tried to take over, but years of leadership forced it down. She explained the situation briefly, choosing words that protected her dignity, her voice steady but her hands trembling. Arif understood immediately that the problem was not fabric but fear. He did not turn his head away dramatically or pretend she was invisible. Instead, he faced the wall, eyes on the sunlight, and spoke calmly about boundaries and respect, explaining that he would not look, that he could help only if she agreed, that control remained hers. In a world where people often took without asking, the permission mattered. What followed was not intimacy but trust. He worked by touch alone, guided by her careful directions, using a temporary fastening from his kit meant for emergency uniforms. The moment lasted minutes, but inside those minutes lived a lifetime of unspoken understanding. Meher felt the strange relief of being seen as human, not spectacle, and Arif felt the weight of responsibility that comes when someone offers vulnerability without armor. Outside, the city continued its noon rhythm, unaware that something quiet and important was happening behind glass. When it was over, there was no dramatic thank you, no lingering gaze. Meher returned to her office with her posture restored, and Arif finished the panel repair and prepared to leave. Yet the encounter stayed with both of them. For Meher, it cracked something she had sealed away years ago, the belief that asking for help was weakness. For Arif, it stirred an old ache, a reminder of how easily dignity could be taken or preserved by a single choice. Arif's life had been shaped by choices like that. He had grown up watching his mother work double shifts, her pride bruised by people who spoke down to her when they needed her labor and ignored her when they didn't. He learned early that respect was not about rank but behavior. That lesson cost him jobs sometimes. He once refused to laugh along with crude jokes at a construction site and was quietly removed from the schedule the next week. Still, he kept his standards, even when they made life harder. Meher, on the other hand, had paid a different price. Her climb to the top had required constant vigilance. Mistakes were magnified, softness misread. She had learned to armor herself with efficiency, to solve problems before anyone saw cracks. That afternoon's tear cut deeper than fabric because it reminded her that control was an illusion. She found herself replaying the moment, not with embarrassment, but with a surprising gratitude that bordered on disbelief. Days passed, bright and busy. Arif did not expect to hear from the company again, but a request came for a full facilities audit. When he returned, the atmosphere felt different, warmer, as if the building itself had inhaled. Meher noticed him immediately, not because he stood out, but because she recognized the quiet integrity in his movements. She authorized the audit personally, not as a favor, but because she trusted his judgment. Their interactions remained professional, almost sparse, yet something gentle threaded through them, a shared understanding that did not need words. As the audit progressed, Arav uncovered serious safety oversights that previous contractors had ignored to save money. Reporting them honestly could cost the company time and reputation. Many would have softened the language. Arav did not. He submitted a clear, thorough report in the middle of the day, sunlight still strong, believing truth deserved daylight. Meher read it alone in her office, heart sinking and lifting at once. The problems were real, but so was the integrity behind the report. She approved the fixes immediately, absorbing the cost without complaint. That decision sent ripples. Employees noticed changes, safer equipment, clearer communication, a leadership tone that felt more human. Meher began walking the floors during lunch hours, listening instead of directing. She did not announce why she changed, she just did. Sometimes, she caught sight of her reflection in glass and remembered that torn skirt, the way vulnerability had not destroyed her but strengthened her. Arav, too, felt a shift. The project extended his contract, giving him stability he had not known in years. More than that, it reaffirmed his belief that decency could still be rewarded. He carried that hope home each evening, the sky still light, telling his mother about the company that chose safety over shortcuts. She smiled in that tired, proud way that had carried him through childhood. Near the end of the audit, Meher invited Arav to a small daytime ceremony unveiling a new safety initiative. She spoke about unseen heroes, about respect in ordinary moments, about how leadership was measured when no one was watching. She did not tell the story, but those who listened felt its truth. Arav stood at the back, uncomfortable with attention, yet deeply moved. He realized then that moments did not have to be loud to be life-changing. As the crowd dispersed, sunlight slanted across the floor just as it had that first day. The building hummed with normalcy, but something permanent had shifted inside its walls. Meher felt lighter, not because her power had increased, but because it no longer isolated her. Arav felt taller, not because he had been praised, but because he had stayed himself. Before the ending of this story, take a second to comment below and share what kindness or respect means to you in a difficult moment. The world did not transform overnight. Challenges remained, mistakes still happened, and fabric still tore sometimes. But two people carried forward a lesson born in daylight, that dignity is preserved not by looking away from problems, but by facing them with care. Meher continued to lead with a quieter strength, and Arav continued to work with steady honesty. They did not become legends, but they became proof. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that respect can exist even in fragile moments, please like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who need to believe that kindness still matters.